Hello, I'm Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer. Welcome to my channel list of essential oils and their uses. This video is rose essential oil benefits. And just here really, all I'm doing is telling you where the information is at, because I am the author of this book, Rose Goddess Medicine, and also this book, 50 easy essential oil recipes for skincare products for dry skin, as well as actually 18 others. But so the information that I've got about rose essential oil is large, and so I want to make it as accessible to you as I possibly can. So I've broken it down into a series of videos. If you are a beginner, you just bought your bottle of rose essential oil, spent the mortgage, you need to scroll down to the description below and look for the link for what is rose essential oil used for. Okay, what is rose essential oil used for? That's if you're a beginner, right? Or if you just want to watch everything there is about rose, which is what I would do because I love them so much. If you are a more advanced therapist and you think, right, I do know what it does, or I know what it can do, but how does it do it, right? So this is a more technical video about the essential oil properties of rose essential oil, but this is what does rose essential oil do. So we're going to look at a bit of chemistry, some of the clinical trials where the proof is about the essential oil. If you are interested in skin, and why would you not be, there is a video especially about that, and that is rose essential oil benefits for skin. As we go along, I will collect up other rose videos I've done. For example, I'm sure there's one about rose essential oil versus rose absolute, etc., etc. Look in the description, and I will get my editor to have a look and put them all together for you to find. So I'm going to leave it there because let's go on to the next video. And thank you for watching me so far. Yeah, welcome to my channel list of essential oils and their uses. This video is rose essential oil benefits for skin. Now it's part of a series of videos about rose essential oil. I am the writer of several books, 20 aromatherapy manuals, including this one, Rose Goddess Medicine. So as you can imagine, I've got more than 2 minutes to say. There's no way I will be restrained. So I've broken it down into videos for you. And this one in particular is pertinent to another one of my books, because this is 50 easy essential oil recipes for skincare products for dry skin. And that's what it's for. Rose is beautiful for dry skin or for normal skin, you know. So let's just have a quick overgo of the different oils I would use for different skin types first, to be clear, right? So if somebody had very greasy skin and they had and they were my age, which is like 21 obviously, then I would say neroli or vetiver. But if they're a teenager, I would go lavender. So we don't really want to use lavender on any oil except for really grimy teenage skin. Also actually helichrysum is lovely for balancing skin. So if somebody has tremendously dry skin because they're older, like older than me, you know, at 60s, 70s, 80s, we're going to use frankincense because it's tremendous. It's like polyfiller, really. Tremendous for wrinkles. It restores elasticity, so it tightens all of the tissues. If you are my age, which is actually, truthfully, 50 in a few weeks, so anywhere between 30 and 50, really, we're going to be looking at rose. In fact, no, anybody from 20 to 50. If you've just got normal skin or slightly dry skin, rose or vetiver or helichrysum. But rose is beautiful. Or geranium, actually. Incidentally, if you are like me and you have a greasy tea, so we have this grease here, and this perpetual spot farm here, we use ylang ylang. So rose to balance out the dryness here, ylang ylang to balance out the T-zone. Yeah. And within this book, there's lots and lots of recipes for you to follow. But let's talk about how we would use it. So first of all, would I use it as a cleanser? No, I probably wouldn't, if I'm honest. I can think of oils that will do a better job of cleansing my skin. So, for example, carrot. Carrot seed essential oil is fantastic for drawing crap out of your skin, as is cypress. Both of them are very astringent, so I tend to use a cleanser with a drop of neroli and a drop of carrot and a drop of cypress. Cypress also has a tremendous effect if you spend a lot of time in front of a screen, and let's be honest, who doesn't anymore? Or if you work under fluorescent lights. Not so pertinent now as it used to be sort of in the 90s, but you could go into a store and I don't know about you, but I would feel fuzzy in the head from all the positive ions. And cypress is tremendous for just calming that down, settling it, and as I say, tightening the skin and just cleaning it of all the environmental rubbish that's out there. But likewise, you could use rose as a cleanser. But let's think about it for a moment. Let's think about how we use a cleanser. We put it on, we take it off, don't we? We don't really leave a cleanser on the skin. Now, bear in mind that an essential oil will take around about 19 minutes, 20 minutes to go through the skin and to go through the, it's a semi-permeable organ, isn't it, the skin? So it goes through and then it gets into the capillaries and then it circulates to all the parts that do it. Are we leaving it on for 20 minutes? No, we're not. Not very often. Unless you were doing like a mask. We will talk about masks in a minute where you could leave it on for that long. But for the most part, you're chucking it down the toilet. Do not use it as a cleanser unless you think, oh yeah, well, I just want everything to match. Which I may have done 3 or 4 million times. But for the most part, cleansers use cheaper oils. Neroli is not cheap, but it is the best oil for my skin, I think. So basic cleanser, and I would say to cleanse off your makeup and then splash with water and really tighten up those skin cells. Then I would say tone, and this is one of the places where rose really comes into its own. If you use a rose water to tone the skin, then that's beautiful. You don't really need to add any alcohol to it. It naturally has a very small amount of alcohol within the rose water anyway, and it's astringent, so it tightens and tones the skin and closes up all the pores to just really make sure that you have this lovely smooth, clear complexion. So what is it about the rose that is so good for skincare? And why is it good for nourishing the skin so much? Because we can say it's hydrating because it makes it look like it's dewy, you know, that clear sort of shine that you get to the skin, but it's not really hydrating. You need the moisturiser base to do that, to be honest, but it does have the illusion of it, and really we're looking for how it does it. But it also gets rid of the dryness. So how can it not be hydrating but get rid of the dryness? Well, what it actually does is feed the young, new skin cells at the most granular layer. So as they come up to be formed, they're called keratinocytes, the rose plumps them up. So you have fat babies, in effect. And who doesn't love a fat baby? And then it goes into the fatty layer where subcutaneous fat, where it gets even fatter babies bouncing about. And then when it comes to the surface of the layer, if we have taken care of the skin layer, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and we've cleaned off all the dry skin, what you have is youthful skin. Plump, youthful, hydrated, because it's come from it's sort of still new, you know, it's not withered, it's not dry, it's still new and nourished skin up from the layer. So although it's not putting moisture in, it is helping to bring moist cells up. So definitely then we want it in our moisturiser. Oh, I have a moisturiser to hand. That wasn't planned, actually. If anything, I was trying to hide it behind the vase. But as I say, I tell you all the recipes in this book. But I just use a blank aqueous lotion, that is. And I just put a couple of drops of oil in there and a little bit of carrier oil. Only a small amount. Now, something to know about how the skin reacts to oil. So there's two kinds of things, first of all. We read all of these internet pages that say, oh, it's full of linoleic acid, it's full of omega-3, it's full of omega-6, it's full of omega-7, you know, all of those things. But they don't pass through the skin. You have to eat an oil for it to do. So, for example, you have to eat hemp seed oil on a cake or something like that to be able to get to enjoy the benefits of the omega-3. Same applies with putting them into your skincare, but what they do is they have a lovely smoothing and nourishing effect. Now, we could definitely use rose hip essential oil, carrier oil, to bulk it out, because it's full of vitamin C, and that will absorb through the skin into the blood. It's the omegas that won't. So beautiful. So if you read that rose essential oil is full of vitamin C and you get excited, actually the good news is it's not. It's in something cheaper, which is the rose hip carrier oil. Since over the past few years, I've been experimenting with lipids, fixed oils, which are carrier oils in effect. And I love rose hip carrier oil. But if you've got really dry skin, I would go raspberry seed. Tremendous, just tremendous stuff. Just goes, it's like velvet. So I would put in this pot only kind of a few drops of carrier, maybe 10 drops of carrier in there, and your essential oils. So we would use the moisturiser morning, noon and night. What's great about using the recipes in here, they're all based on aqueous lotions, which you can get for next to no money from the chemist. They go right through your makeup, leaves no residue, so straight in. So you can top up your oils all of the time. So what would I blend it with? Because rose is fabulous, it's not going to do the whole job. So as I say, if you've got combination skin, I would go ylang ylang. Stolen from a recipe from my mum, who was one of the founder members of the International Federation of Aromatherapists. She does tremendous skincare, or did. She would also blend rose with violet leaf if somebody had very reactive skin, sensitive skin. I also like to use it with chamomile, with the blue chamomile, chamomile matricaria or German chamomile, all the same name for the same plant. So gentle, because it the colour blue comes from the distillation from a white flower, so it makes a chemical called camasculine, which is like liquid anaesthetic. So if you've got sensitive skin and it's flaky because of it, so maybe you've got eczema, then rose and chamomile matricaria, and actually some brain's gone, some geranium for eczema is absolutely beautiful. And your carrier oil, if you've got eczema, I would use calendula in there. Absolutely beautiful. If you've got skin that's gone dry after being ill, I had that when I used to have my blood thinned. I had a blood clot in my lungs when I was carrying the little one, and I had like breakages all over my face, where all of the blood vessels all burst, and it was so dry. And so we went rose and vetiver, beautiful, and patchouli, rose, vetiver and patchouli, very nourishing. If you're somebody who has breakouts with cold sores, rose and melissa and a bit of tea tree. Just, you only need 1 drop, single drop in there, that's enough. And we're going to use it morning, noon and night. So there's your moisturisers. You could make a mask. So there's plenty of companies that will sell you a mask base. For example, Fragrant Earth sends out our cards, Tongue of the Trees cards. They make spectacular skincare bases and sell all your essential oils and carrier oils. You might want to have a look at those. And they do a beautiful mask. That's where I get mine from. And so I like to, then I use rose. Just lays back and just think of how beautiful this is. So luxurious, so caring for your skin. And yeah, I always use vetiver and patchouli then as well, just to get that glow back. But I think fundamentally the most important thing that you're going to do with your rose essential oil for skin is to do a facial massage treatment. So I would recommend getting a teaspoon of carrier oil. If you can, I would recommend getting hazelnut oil, because hazelnut is exfoliant. It takes off that dead skin. And remember, we want to get the dead skin cells off so we can show the fat babies again, don't we? So a nice blend is rose hip carrier oil and also hazelnut oil together. So if we're going 5 mils, so teaspoon, put it together. And then I'd go 1 drop of rose, because too bloody expensive to go any more than that. And as I say, I like to do either some cypress for the positive ions, or maybe some geranium or vetiver, whatever takes your fancy. So we will put it onto the skin, and what we do is we first of all stroke it all down so we've got loads and loads of oil onto the skin, because while you're not doing any work with your fingers, it can still be going in, can't it? And then we're going to use these 2 fingers and we're going to gently just stroke it over. And what you'll find after a while, not only are you getting beautiful calm when you're releasing off all those muscles, working little circles outwards, you'll start to feel, ooh, I can feel like sugar under my fingers. Yes, granules. They're those horrible dead cells coming off under your fingers. Thank you very much, hazelnut oil. So we use it and then we kind of just stroke it off and get it in. And I would recommend doing a facial massage for 20 minutes. So lie in the bath, watch Netflix, whatever. But just really, because youthful skin is an illusion. Happiness and health comes from the eyes, and eyes really relate to, if you have got stress in this skin, in these muscles, and I do have days when I look like that, although I could do days when I look like that. But it's stress, isn't it? It's that tightness in the muscles. So really get down, put your fingers deep in after you've sloughed it all off. You've sloughed it all off. Then we're going back and we're going to go deep in. We're going to work muscles and the tiny fibres that are holding the skin onto the skull. And think about it. Pull a couple of faces, right? Think about all the muscles that had to use to do that. We just use them all day, don't we? And we don't take any care of them. So really work them. And my goodness me, you'll notice far less headaches. People will go, you look great. And yes, it's the rose, but it's more the massage where you have released off all that stress. And also, your face becomes more expressive because you're not Botoxed with stress any longer. And you're more interesting to watch and to listen to. And it's just it's the greatest, right? So in terms of rose oil benefits for skin, which is what you're interested in. We're going to use, it's the nourishment, the getting the keratinocytes fat, but also the womanliness of it all. Make sure you build this into your self-care regime, because we're not having it forever. This skin does not last forever. You got to take care of it, girls. So again, we've talked it through. I wouldn't do a facial steam really with it. It's too precious. But you definitely do a facial steam. Rose petals in hot water. Release off the essential oils that way. Use that for a steam with some herbs in. Put a towel over your head and that'll clean your skin like nobody's business. So as the pores open for the skin, the grime comes out. So that in itself, your skin looks so much cleaner as well. Very, very clear skin. So use the petals definitely for that. Have a lovely steam. So you want to have your face probably about, I don't know, a foot away from the bowl if you can. Put a towel right over so you make a tent over, and just breathe those fragrances. And as you start to sweat, the first bead of sweat that you get, just celebrate and think, I did this for myself. I cleaned my skin from the inside, and it is a celebration. So there we have it. As I say, this is one of a series of videos. So before you go, please write me some comments, like and subscribe, but then look down in the description and say, what else can I learn about Rose Essential Oil? And I can say lots and lots and lots. And come and subscribe to me here, but also come and subscribe to my newsletter, because I'm telling you now, we have so much more fun on the newsletter than we do here. Also go and get the book, available on Amazon. So thank you for being with me for Rose Essential Oil and the benefits, and check out the links below. And today's video is entitled, what does Rose Essential Oil do? Well, there's a big question. There is a big question. Now, this is part of a series of videos about Rose Essential Oil. So if you have a look in the description, it will tell you where the others are. We have one that focuses entirely on skincare. We have one that's more of a beginner's one. So if you have never used Rose Essential Oil and you want to know what it's used for, that would be the great one. This one's more of an advanced one where we look at the science of what we know the essential oil does. So let me show you this first of all. This is a rose called Sister Elizabeth, bought for me by my sister. Very, very similar in appearance to the rose that we get Rose Essential Oil from. Not red, not white. Beautiful little pink one. Although I have to say this one has tremendous thorns. The other one does not have big thorns. Let's put it on there. Out of the way. So I think most of us would know now that Rose Essential Oil, its key areas are gynecology. Very, very feminine oil. And I talk about it a lot in my book, Rose Goddess Medicine, because it's been aligned to the female goddesses since the beginning of time. And I will go on to do another video about that. It's used tremendously in skincare. Another one of my books, find the link, but this one is 50 essential oil recipes for skincare for dry skin, because it is for dry skin and normal skin. It's laxative, so self-explanatory. Tremendous for the emotions. It works on the heart chakra, so it's a specific for grief. That would be the first oil I would always go for grief, but any kind of sadness, PTSD, that kind of thing. But also from the other side of things, for love, for joy. Absolutely the most beautiful love elixir. And there's a beautiful saying from ancient Sanskrit saying that says, I think it was by the gentleman whose wife was the first person to create rose water, and he said it brings back withered souls. And I think that's absolutely appropriate. So let's talk about some things more in depth. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about gynecology, because, as I say, very feminine oil, but also it works on all the avenues of sexual dysfunction, and that applies to men too. In my Rose book, we talk a lot about a fantastic clinical trial that was, if I remember rightly, done jointly between several different labs, particularly in Iran and Switzerland. And they recruited 60 volunteers, men who were taking SSRIs, which are antidepressants, anti-anxiety drugs, which have the side effect of making you feel of losing sexual function. So that's a terrible side effect, isn't it? How does that not make you any more depressed? So the guys had a mean age of 32. So when you looked at the average across them, they came to an average of 32 years old. And they had questionnaires done at baseline when they were recruited, but also 4 weeks through the trial and 8 weeks through the trial. 2 different questionnaires were taken, one for anxiety and moods, and then the other one was for sexual dysfunction. And the kind of things they were saying that were wrong were erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, no ejaculation at all, loss of libido. So generally not a great picture. I mean, I don't see how they were ever going to get less depressed with that happening. So on the trial, they were given a 17 microgram dose of citronellol. Explain that in a minute. And also that was in 2 mils a day. So citronellol is a component of rose essential oil. I've done a video that I'll put in the links as well. Do essential oils really work for anxiety and depression? And it's worth watching it from this point of view, because it's quite a scientific video, and it talks about the challenges and pitfalls of using scientific data. So one of them is that drugs companies can't patent essential oils. They're a natural commodity that varies so much based on where they grow, what a sort of environment they've grown in. So one of the ways that they get around that is to look at a specific constituent, then try and synthesize that constituent. So this constituent was citronellol. If you smell the essential oil and you know what you're looking for, you can smell the citronellol. It's kind of a lemony fragrance within a geranium fragrance. Beautiful, beautiful. And so, as I say, they were taking this orally, incidentally, 2 millilitres a day. So we're not drinking the essential oil, people, please. We're just thinking about the medicine within the rose. Now, after 4 weeks, there wasn't that much difference, a slight difference in depression and anxiety, but also sexual dysfunction, but similar to, interestingly, the placebo that they'd used as well. So this idea of I'm doing something to get better is actually making me better, even though I'm not taking the real thing. The placebo effect is a very interesting and real phenomena. It's fascinating to somebody like me that mindset has such a big varying. But then at 8 weeks, you should have a look at the book to see the phenomenal difference that there was a complete regainment, whatever that word would be. They had regained most of their sexual dysfunction. Their erections were coming back. They were able to ejaculate. They got the libido back, and of course were feeling better. So that's just the male side, and I find that fascinating because not many people write about rose for men, but we can see that there. But libido, of course, is kind of loss of libido can happen at any time of life to men and women, obviously. But 2 main areas, I think, is after you've had a baby and when you go through menopause. And rose helps with, there's 2 tremendous clinical trials that help us to understand what happens there. So There was a lovely trial done on ladies who had had babies in their first few days of after having the newborns. They were given rose essential oil to inhale. Now, I have to say, I think that this would happen with any essential oil, especially any flowery essential oil, knowing what I do about how it reacts to and makes the oxytocin move in the body. But specifically, rose essential oil is beautiful. And they were given it to inhale for 6 days. And then their cortisol was assessed. So what's cortisol? So cortisol is a stress hormone. When we're stressed, our amygdala perceives the stress and it sends messages to another part of the brain called the hypothalamus. We're going to talk about the hypothalamus later in more depth, but the hypothalamus sends messages to the pituitary that sends messages then to the adrenals, and the adrenals secrete cortisol right across the body. Now, in all the videos, I make sure that I campaign on behalf of cortisol, because everybody talks about cortisol as if it's a real baddie. But in its natural state, it is an anti-inflammatory hormone. It's there to help your body to fight stress. The problem is, if stress doesn't turn off, so for example, a baby keeps crying. If stress doesn't turn off, then because the body is flooded with cortisol, the parasympathetic system, which is the part of the nervous system that switches everything down, helps you go to sleep, rest and restore, parasympathetic system cannot ask the sympathetic system, the bit that does the stress, to turn off. And so continually we have stress, 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 stress. Now, let me tell you an interesting thing about cortisol. You can see I'm fascinated by this. But my middle child, I have 3 children, a young one and 2 older ones. Middle child is a boy, a man now, with Asperger's syndrome. So when you have Asperger's syndrome, your cortisol doesn't work the same way. So if you are normal, typical, if you're neurotypical, what happens is, you get up in the morning, about 30 minutes later, you have this natural spike of cortisol, which is basically that I'm awake now. I can deal with this. Takes about half an hour to kick in. But then through the day it goes down. Doesn't happen if you have Asperger's. You just have straight across. So not everybody else's cortisol works the same way. Now, interestingly, baby's cortisol doesn't work the same way. This spike and down through the day starts when they're about 2. Before that time, what happens is it mimics mum's. So when mum's goes up, so does baby's. So if mum's got natural, normal cortisol secretion, remember, sympathetic, parasympathetic, remember, that's got to be right for it to work. But if it is, mum's goes, oh, I've had my coffee, I can manage, and we're getting tired through the day. And baby learns, she's had a coffee, I'll wake up now, I'll play with some beads or whatever, down through the day. What happens then if mum goes, never, please, please stop crying, please stop crying, please stop crying. I can do it because I've been there. Babies goes, why is she upset? Why is she upset? Why is she upset? It upsets me to even think about it. Now, Rose is proven to stop the cortisol release. Now, on a huge scale, right across the body, that's phenomenal, because that means that it will combat this sympathetic, parasympathetic dysfunction. So at every possible time, Rose goes, okay, it's time to calm down now. You can calm. That saber-toothed tiger's gone, calm down. And sympathetic goes, oh, okay, rest and restore. It's okay, calm down, rest and restore. And your body goes, think about how phenomenally important that is for somebody who has postnatal depression. Really, really important. Now, an interesting thing about cortisol is, or about the sympathetic nervous system really, because remember it's that triggers the cortisol. When you are a baby, your body is in a parasympathetic predominant state. So what does that mean? What it means is most of the time it's in rest and restore. Hence then baby goes, I'm ever so tired, I'm going to sleep. I'm doing something, no, I'm ever so tired, I'm going to sleep. And it has a sleep, and what does it do? It grows, right? So it helps the body to restore, to grow stronger. Parasympathetic dominant. So what happens then as we get older? We become sympathetic dominant. So we find things more stressful, but also naturally, for example, we have raised blood pressure because the sympathetic system does this. It forces the blood pressure up, the blood sugars, the respiration. We go, tiger down there. But naturally our body does it. So think about that then. So what happens when we go into menopause? We are already, nature is already forcing us into a stressed state. And then it takes away our estrogen, which incidentally, not so relevant to this lecture, but it is the molecule of worry. When we haven't got the high levels of estrogen, we worry more. What does that do? Well, triggers the cortisol release factor to make more cortisol, and so then we're going round and round and round. Very, very difficult. Now, whilst there's not that much research into rose with menopause, I can tell you now that every good aromatherapist would go, I'm going rose, I'm going claret sage, probably going geranium and lavender, because those are the key areas. However, there is a lot of research that says if you give a lady who is going through menopause, who has menopausal symptoms, and we'll talk about menopausal symptoms in a minute, but you know what I'm talking about, the mood disorder, the hot flushes, the night sweats, all of those deals, give them regular massage, those symptoms come down. Now, as I say, any good aromatherapist would say, oh, I think I'll use a bit of rose oil. So, that's a good help. But here's an interesting thing about menopause. That culturally, your symptoms are to do with where you've grown up. Very, very weird. So, for example, Japanese ladies don't really have that many symptoms. An English lady who is around about 50 with red hair, hot flushes, night sweats, mood, memory, that's the worst one for me. Loss of libido, all of those things, English symptoms and American symptoms. But if you ask a Japanese lady, she'll go, well, actually, no, mostly I just stopped bleeding. So that's weird. And even weirder is if you talk to a lady who is Mayan, you know, down in parts of Greece and ancient and down in Mexico and South America. I just stopped bleeding. No, I didn't have mood swings. Hot sweats, hot flushes. No. Why? They just don't have them. Now, actually, clinically, the only things that are aligned clinically to menopause are the hot flushes and the night sweats. So you could say, well, Japanese, that could be explained by how much soy they have in their diet, because soy is a phytoestrogen. So that would bring, that would stop it, because we're putting the estrogen back into the system. But the Mayans, no. They don't eat soy. So here's an interesting thing then. Because the Mayans have a very, very different mindset about what it means to be a post-menopausal woman. Most of them get married around about 12 and become baby machines. I'm sorry, but that's a horrible way of putting it. But they have loads of children. Predominantly, not really even having time to have periods between them, lots and lots of children. And on the times when they do have periods, society views them as very dirty. They're not allowed to go and see their friends. They're not allowed to go to church. So when you get to, I've stopped bleeding, oh, thank goodness, I'm not worried about losing fertility. I can see my friends. I can go to church. I can do all of those things that my period stopped me doing. And as a society, those ladies, those are crones who are revered. Not like in our society. So is it an emotional thing? Well, that's very difficult to say, isn't it? But if it is an emotional thing, then perhaps that comes from, well, actually, I haven't got any emotional baggage that's going to cause my physical body to have anxious. I'm not anxious about menopause at all. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm not having like, when do we go hot? We go hot when we're frightened, don't we? Or have a panic. And I don't know about you, I've managed to stop my night sweats and hot flushes, but that's another video. But when I had hot flushes, I felt like the walls were coming in. It was a real feeling of anxiety. But we know that massage calms that down. And interestingly, there's a lovely Chinese study that the ladies who had the best effects from their massage were those who were given little home treatments to massage their belly with through every day through the week. And not only did all their symptoms go, but their belly got smaller and their waist size got smaller. And maybe we can explain that by the fact that rose essential oil is proven to affect cortisol, and cortisol is proven to make belly fat cells 4 times the size. Where does it stop? Where does it start? It's truly, truly magical. So if we talk about depression and PTSD, as I say, this would be the first oil I would go to for that. But likewise, anxiety, we've talked about the effects on the cortisol. Of course, that all comes together. If we don't feel stressed all of the time, we feel calmer and more with it. But also, essential oils generally, but in particular, rose, is proven to affect 2 particular areas of the brain. The first is the amygdala. The amygdala is a very, very ancient part of the brain. It's a key part of the limbic system, and it's what perceives fear, danger in particular. And it's supposed to help me remember what I was going to say next, but it hasn't. But also the hypothalamus. Now, the hypothalamus is to do with, it has lots of different functions, but in the context of what I'm going to say now, stores memories, right? So it's proven that rose essential oil will help neuroplasticity in the hypothalamus. Elizabeth, what the hell does that mean? Neuroplasticity, neuro, to do with the brain, nerves, nervous cells. Plasticity, regeneration, changing, malleable and flexible. So, in cases of neurodegeneration, like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, early stages, rose works on the hypothalamus and is proven to help regenerate nerve cells and help them heal, improving memory. Maybe the sniff did work. However, what I will stress here is this is an early stage trial, and while I can't remember exactly, let me see if I can go. Yeah. Oh, rats. I couldn't remember what kind of rodent it was done. So this is on rats. And I mean, the clinical trial that they used in itself is interesting, although cruel, but useful. What they did was they killed some of the brain cells of the rats using scopolamine. Now, scopolamine is interesting anyway, because it's a drug that's used for dizziness and vertigo, and it's made from a constituent that comes from a plant which is deadly, nightshade. One of the side effects of scopolamine is, I always find, is really weird. It's for anxiety, for dizziness and vertigo, and one of the side effects it has is dizziness. I'd be really fed up if they gave me that. But it really doesn't do very much good to the brain cells. So the brain cells were killed off. But then when they gave them the rose essential oil to, I'm just looking at my notes to see if it says, well, it doesn't say how it was, and my notes doesn't say how it was, but I'm pretty sure that they injected it interperitoneally. So injected it into its tummy. So I don't think it was inhalation, to be fair. But the brain got better. Rose oil is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. So one of the key things, we've talked about memory from anyway, but I said to you, my brain, it's not great because of my menopause. The only actual thing that's left and of the symptoms, and it shows no sign of leaving anytime soon, but we're getting rid of everything else. But another thing that would addle the brain over time is dependency, and rose essential oil is fascinatingly useful for helping people withdraw from things like heroin. Yeah, it just is very anti-dependency medicine, and the trials are to do with inhalation. And really, I don't think that probably works on the actual addiction itself. It probably works on the moods that support the addiction. But who cares? Who cares? And I do remember, I don't know, maybe about 3 years ago, I had a message on Facebook from a girl that I went to school with, and she was a lovely girl, and I didn't remember that much about her. I just remembered that she was very small, she was very pretty, she was a tremendous runner, and that was about it. But I was really pleased to have a message off her, and it turned out that she lives not far from me. So we said, shall we meet up? And I said, oh yeah. So I kind of Facebook stalked her and looked at all the pictures, and I thought, oh, that's weird. Her colouring's changed. She's got much ruddier skin than she had before, because she had quite pale skin like I did, and having dark hair, she had tremendous looks, you know. But anyway, I thought nothing more of it. But when I met up with her, I realised, oh, actually, her skin's really quite changed. And when we were talking, she explained to me why that had happened. So the first thing that I'd said to her was, do you still run? Because she was tremendous. And I was a decent runner, a long-distance runner. She was a long-distance runner. And there was another girl at school who was extremely good and actually went on to be an Olympic heptathlon gold medalist, who is Denise Lewis. And both the girl and I had beaten Denise at school for different reasons. So, by the by, Denise's skirt fell off in sports day. I beat her because of that. So that is my claim to fame. But this girl actually was good enough to beat her on a regular basis, because Denise was much better at short distances sprinting, but never mind. But this girl was tremendous. And I said, do you still run? And she went, oh, no. As if it was obvious. And I thought, what have I forgotten? She said, do you remember when I was about 13, I had that operation because of my growth? And I'd remembered she was small, but I didn't remember much else. And then when she said, I went, oh, yes, you did. You had calipers put on your legs. So it stopped her running. But I don't think it would ever happen now. But she'd had no counselling for the fact that she could no longer run. They just stopped her and they broke her legs and put her in calipers. And then that was it. And nobody really talked about it again. So she went back to school and we all just carried on as normal. And the poor girl never grieved at all for the loss of something that she was incredibly good at as I remember rightly, I don't think she was as academically brilliant. She was clever enough, but, you know, that had been her thing, and it had gone. And I felt terribly sorry for her, and she said, it's caused me terrible things through my life. And I said, oh, how? And she explained how it had, she felt, been the reason why she'd become an alcoholic. That there'd been this thorn, and I always talk about the thorn when I talk about Rose. We all have this thorn that creates issues in our tissues, don't we? That thing that we haven't got rid of, that trauma, that festering wound. And it had been left, and the tissues had grown over time. But of course it had come back to bite her, and she'd become very poorly through drink. And she was really inspirational in the way that she was talking about, she'd gone to AA and she'd done the 12 steps, and she felt that the key to her getting better had been that she had been able to feel that there had been a higher order. And she'd met a lovely man, and the two of them had got married, and they were both from AA. And she, I think she's probably nearly 10 years sober now, and he's, I think, about 6 years sober, or hopefully that's still the case for them both. But she said that he hadn't really tapped into the higher order thing of the AA steps, and he had found it more difficult because of that. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the book is how Rose helps you connect to a higher order. And on the most basic level, if you look at like ancient Egyptians, ancient Greek, Babylonian, Sumerian, they all use Rose as a way to get in touch with their highest female goddess, whether that would be Astarte, Ishtar, Inanna, Aphrodite, Isis, Venus. All of them are the powerful goddesses of love, creation, and war. So this war thing seems very strange, because now we only think of like Aphrodite and Venus as love, but war. These were war goddesses. And there's a fascinating trial that talks about how Rose is proven to be anti-conflict. Now, as I say, it's ruled by Venus when we look at it in medical astrology. And if you get to learn much about Venus, medical astrology, I have some cards, Tongue of the Trees cards that I sell. And there's a database that talks about all the different aspects of the energetics that go with that the essential oils do. So Venus, as I say, is beauty, money, luxury, champagne, chocolates, all of that great stuff. But it tempers the effects of Mars. Mars is war, aggression, motivation, drive, blood, actually. Blood, considering we're talking about menstruation and gynecology, it's blood. Venus tempers Mars. So if Mars is out of control, if we've got too much war, too much aggression, too much conflicts, Venus tempers Mars. It soothes it down. Rose is anti-conflict. Really strange, but it is. It is. And so I'm not going to talk in depth about skincare, except to say that it plumps up keratinocytes, which are the cells right at the bottom. When then the new cells that come up, they're the newest ones, and then they get fattened up in the subcutaneous layer. And as they come up, if you have sloughed off all the dead skin, you have lovely, plump, fresh cells. And the rose makes the keratinocytes fatter and plumper and healthier. But before we go, I want to talk about one more very important thing, because I am a pain specialist. I teach aromatherapists how to treat pain, and there's a tremendous clinical trial from Iran where they gave essential oil on just a couple of drops of oil on, you know, little iPads, you know, that you clean your face with. So a couple of drops of essential oil on an iPad, and they put it on a pillow 30 centimetres away from little children who had operations, and they wanted to see how it affected their perception of pain and their sedation, because it is hypnotic. It does send you to sleep. It makes you go to sleep quicker and longer. And what they were able to see, in fact I did write down the exact things here for you because it is phenomenal. Wait a minute. So the first assessment immediately upon arrival showed no difference between the groups, but post-operatively the Rose team always reported less pain. The difference between the two groups grows more dramatic with each reading. At 3 hours, the placebo group reported a mean pain reading of 2.6, but the Rose patients were faring better at 1.03. So just at 3 hours, they had half the perception of pain. By 12 hours, the placebo group was left standing with a mean pain score of 1.1, and the Rose having dropped to a pain score of 0.4. And then I've put here, incidentally, it's worth stating here that there was a good cross-section of different modalities of surgeries involved in this trial, from thoracic to gastric, which makes it harder to suggest whether the effects of the oil were happening because of a tonic effect on the gastric system. So what that means is, because it's laxative, we know that it works on the digestive system. So therefore, was it the effect on the digestive system, making the digestive system better on those people who had had tummy operations? Or was it purely the effect on perception on the brain? And that is just inhalation. That not only does the pain get better, but you know it feels better as well. So there your brain goes, yeah, it is less. It is less. It's moving further away from me because it's overwhelming, isn't it? Imagine when you've got toothache. Can't think about anything else, can you? So, things like period pains. You've got to do your rose, your lavender and your clary sage. Now, if you are thinking, well, wow, but I don't know where to start with using it, come on over and subscribe to my website, and there will be a launch in the next few days of the Essential Oil, the Tongue of the Trees Recipe Hub, which is a database of, at the moment, 160 different recipes, but it will grow by at least 20 each month. And we go into exactly how to do it. So in the database, there is a rose section. So we've got a recipe for PMT, a recipe for menopause, a recipe for pain perception, blah, 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 blah. So that is a monthly subscription product. And yeah, I hope that helps you. Please do like and subscribe this video. Please put some comments below because they really help me understand what you want me to make videos about. So did you understand? Did you find it helpful? Did you like it? Do you like my oils? Whatever you want to put. Welcome to my channel, list of essential oils and their uses. And today we're talking about what is rose essential oil used for, that lovely little bottle. Now, it's part of a series of videos I've done about rose essential oil benefits, because I am an author of 20 essential oil manuals, including, pertinently, this one, Rose Goddess Medicine, and this one, Skincare for Dry Skin. And rose contributes, obviously, greatly to both. So this is a very short overview here, and then if you go down to the description, there are videos that go much more in depth. So this is for a beginner. If you decided that you are actually above what you already know, that I already tell, because you know I can tell it in a snapshot, and you want to go more deeply into things like clinical evidence, more interesting stuff, then look in the description for what does rose essential oil do. So we're going to go more scientific, not just what do we use it for, but how does it do it. And then lastly, if you are here for the skincare, and why would you not be? rose essential oil benefits for skin. We're going to talk a little bit about skincare in this video, but that one we're going to talk about how we use the rose essential oil. What do we do to really make our skin look beautiful? So first of all, rose essential oil, where does it come from? Well, as you can see, I've got several lovely roses. Look at those. I've just picked those in the garden. So I have to be careful not to drop this on my computer. That'd be good, wouldn't it? So as we go through, we can see they're all different colours, all different fragrances. Which one do you think the oil would be made from? Red one, maybe? Orange one, white one? Well, or maybe you think actually it doesn't matter. A rose is a rose is a rose. Well, to a certain extent, that's true. But the rose essential oil comes from, this is not exactly it, but it looks very much like it. The Rosa Damascena. This one's called Sister Elizabeth, actually. Bought for me by my sister, and obviously I am Elizabeth. And it's pink, and it's very dainty. And actually it does smell very much like the real one as well. Very, very dainty. So it's pink. It's not the red rose that we all think of to do with love and passion. So that's interesting. We're not thinking about deep red passionate sex. We're talking about pink, soft, powdery, gentle transmission of love. Love is the thing. Rather than the passion, rather than the sex, it's the love. But having said that, it's very aphrodisiac. We'll talk about that in a minute. So first of all, let's think about the skincare, because that's where everybody starts with rose oil, and it's the right thing to do because it brings about this beautiful nourishment to the skin. And as I say, in the other video with the link down below about skincare, we're going to talk about how to use it. But what I can tell you is its active ingredient means that it acts on what's called the keratinocytes, which are the formulative cells of your skin. Plenty of clinical evidence to support this. I'm just going to get high. Forget talking to you, I'm just going to get high. So, if you think about how the skin's constructed, it's in many different layers. So you've got the epidermis, and then we've got right down at the bottom, we've got the granular layer. Lots of subcutaneous fat here to feed them. But the granular layer, the cells are born, they come up, they're fed in the subcutaneous layer. Fat get fat babies, and then they come up to the surface. Now, what's interesting is most of the surface of your skin is dead cells by the time I get here. So when in the other video, we'll look at sloughing those off to get the very best effect for your skin. But the keratinocytes come up, and of course they're all young, so they're translucent and thin and healthy and flushed, you know. See that lovely blush effect that you get? That is from all the lovely healthiness that the rose has put into the keratinocytes. So that's skincare. What we'll talk about, again, we'll talk about it more, but specifically you are looking to use rose for dry skin or normal skin. If it's really dry, we're going more frankincense or maybe vetiver. If you've got combination skin, rose and ylang-ylang to calm down that T-square. And as I say, look in the other video, we'll go into that much more deeply. But for skincare, beautiful. Just to clarify a couple of points that come up on the internet, I see a lot, is there's lots of pages that will tell you it's full of vitamin C. So lemon essential is full of vitamin C. Rose essential oil is vitamin C. What? A load of rubbish. It's not. Essential oils can't pass through, vitamins can't pass through distillation. They're water-based and lipid-based, which don't actually cross the distillation. They're left behind. So if you do want to put vitamin C on your skin, well, who wouldn't? It really makes a big difference to nourishing it and also bringing youthful cells to the surface. There is vitamin C in the plant of the rose, and you find it in the rose hip. So if you're looking for rose hip carrier oil, there's your vitamin C. And again, look in the other video for that. Emotionally, it's a very powerful essential oil, specifically for grief, for sadness, for love generally. You know, it operates on the heart chakra. So there's many chakras, but we talk about 7 main chakras, from the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the brow, and the crown chakra. Now, all our evidence shows that it activates and supports the heart chakra. So emotionally, we talk about how that is love and emotions and grief and sadness, but joy in particular. But the chakras go through the etheric bodies, the aura, right through, and they permeate through the physical body like a cone, like that. So they go big, small through the organs, small, big, out, sending messages from the spirit and the emotions from the aura into the physical body. So we also know then that the heart chakra has a physical component to it. So anything to do with the problems in the heart chakra will show themselves in problems in the chest. So heart complaints, circulation, lungs, respiratory problems, and again we will see sadness and grief. So then we can talk about how rose is extremely good for circulation. It wouldn't be the first oil we would go for. If it were me, I would go for black pepper or geranium. But in terms of supporting the heart, if we've got heart problems, beautiful, really beautiful. Because not only that, but it calms the emotions that go with the heart. Specifically, as I say, I've written a book called Rose Goddess Medicine, and I'll put details below as to how you can find that. But I talk in there about a fantastic clinical trial, albeit it was about mice. So that's one of my things to tell you, that it's not about people, but we suspect it would have the same effect on people, that it stopped mice fighting. It seems to have an anti-conflict part of it. So again, we're going to this calming, harmonious love again, aren't we? And as I video this, not only am I in coronavirus lockdown, but I'm watching these horrific riots for George Floyd, and just the anger that's coming out of it all. And rose would be a perfect elixir for the rage that people are feeling, you know, and rightful rage, I should say. I'm not surprised the world is furious about this, but if you were to look at a way to appease it, well, the gardens are full of roses. Beautiful. So you might have seen these cards before. These are my Tongue of the Trees cards, and as you can see, for love. So let me tell you a little bit about the poem in the book that goes with it. It says, standing by the graveside or sobbing into your pillow, I know your pain. On the days when you feel lonely, worried or sad, I know your pain. Through the nights where sleep seems so far away and you feel like you might break, amidst the anger, the confusion and desolation, I feel your pain. For I was there, remember, when you smelled the roses of their love, and your fingertips stroked my petals and tried to avoid the prick of thorn. I felt your hopes, your fears, your joy of deep connection. I ensnared it in my scent to help conjure that affection. In my fragrance, remember hope. Let my aroma you complete. May scent of celebration heal you, calm you, and help you sleep, for through me you're never alone, always loved, and open to give and receive more. Smell me, open up, and feel safe to love once more. So yeah, the bit about the dreaming and the pillow and the sleeping is because the clinical trials show that it has an action which we call hypnotic. That is, it makes you kind of mesmerised, trance-like, and really makes you sleep more deeply and go to sleep more easily. But also that whole conversation that the plant has with you, if you draw this card, reminds you about the interaction the brain has with fragrance. Now, I wasn't going to talk about this, but interesting that it's Rose Goddess Medicine. I'm writing a piece at the moment for a journal about how I feel that God is in the fragrance, that God lives in fragrances, and the goddesses used to be called down by incenses. We use incense in the churches still, but also in that fragrance is memories, isn't it? The second that you smell, you go, oh, well, what's that remind me of? Well, that really reminds me of something. And when you're reminded, you're taken back there. So it's a bit like when in the treatment of trauma and PTSD, how there are many different therapies now that work with exposure, exposing you to the memory, the problem, the trauma that took place in a safe and calm environment where you are separated from it. It's one of the main oils that we use for PTSD. You might be interested in some of my Essential Oils for Mental Health series where we talk about rose, a lot of the different aspects. But this whole idea of going back to a place, remembering, but your neurotransmitters are not behaving in the same way as they did at the time. They're not furious at the betrayal. They're not running wild with dopamine and passion because, my God, I can't eat because he's so beautiful, you know? It's just the memory. And what's very interesting is that memory exists within a part of the brain called the limbic system. It's a very primitive and ancient part of the brain, possibly part of the first part of the brain ever formed. And we know that rose in particular activates on the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the adrenals, what's called the HPA axis. And when you inhale rose, what it does is stops that HPA axis from firing. It prevents a thing called cortisol being released. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Cortisol in its own right, I'm a big advocate of cortisol because everybody makes cortisol sound like the baddie, and I'm going to wave the flag for it and say actually in its own right it's anti-inflammatory, and we secrete it when we're stressed, you know. So it's CRF, cortisol release factor. The part that triggers it is now known to be the hormone, the molecule of negative expectation. So the second that you expect something bad's going to happen, you start, the CRF is released, and then cortisol starts to flush the system. Now, as I say, to begin with, that's great because it's in response to stress. It's to say, right, okay, jump up into the tree away from that saber-toothed tiger. But after a while, if you're not careful, in a long-term stress situation, you can't stop thinking that saber-toothed tiger is there. And because your body is flushed with this cortisol continually, the sympathetic system cannot be switched off by the parasympathetic system, which is in effect rest and restore, what makes you go to sleep, what stops your eyes being dilated, calms your breath, calms your heart. Can't happen. Because it cannot secrete, kick into touch when all of this cortisol is in the body. So, breathing the essential oil, breathing the rose, calms the cortisol release. So immediately we've got a way in to things like PTSD, trauma, memory in particular. Memory is an interesting one because, and I'm kind of going more technical than I wanted to in this video, but I'm so passionate about it I can't stop. we know that it, as I say, it works on the amygdala, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, particularly on the hypothalamus. Now, what's interesting about the hypothalamus is the cells have a certain degree of plasticity. So what that means is they can regenerate, right? So if we, and rose will cause that to happen. You get this regeneration of cells within the hypothalamus, which is also early stages dementia. It looks like it may be able to calm down the problems with memory in those early days because it encourages the cells to regenerate. Early stage. Very early stage research as well. So I'm going to go back to my cards in a minute, see if we can get back on track because I've gone off. So here we go. And at the bottom of the Tongue of the Trees cards, as I say, I wrote these. I did not do how beautiful this is. This is all the work of somebody called Gergely Halodi, who is my business partner, a Hungarian aromatherapist. But at the bottom, you can't see it on there. I'll read it to you. Are some details that tell us even more about the oil. So for the start off, it tells us that it's the middle note for blending. We also call that the heart note. So if you mix it with some top notes and some base notes, you get a beautiful blend. Incidentally, if you have a look on in the links, you'll also see a link to the Tongue of the Trees channel, which is to do with these. And we go much more deeply into how to use the essential oils for safety and stuff like that. But we do a big set on blending. Now, it's ruled in Chinese medicine by water. What does that mean? Well, water is the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings that go on, the subconscious urgings that take us by surprise, override the conscious mind, really. And yeah, going into those dark spaces. The thorn, you know, we should talk about the thorn, really. We all have those thorns, don't we, that are deep in the issues, in the tissues. It just hurt me so much, but I knew I'd got to get past it, and so I didn't really deal with it. I moved forward. I had to smile. I needed to smile. The kids needed me. Couldn't just wallow. Okay, yeah. You're right in everything that you've done, but I'm telling you now, that thorn is festering. If you are suffering from depression, suffering from anxiety, suffering from PTSD, suffering from grief, it's that thorn. The rose knows about thorns. It really does. That's how it heals. So we've talked about how it's the heart chakra. It's ruled by Venus. Now, I'm going to cursory say this, but if you go to the other video, the more deeply one, I won't be able to stop. But Venus is the planet, which is love, and all things beautiful, all things luxurious. So it rules things like money, but also looking good, chocolate, champagne, all of that stuff. It all goes with roses, doesn't it? But Venus is to do, again, with love. It's just one word, but a huge concept within our lives, isn't it? And I am a religion scholar, right? That's what I did my qualifications in, and so I studied Old Testament archaeology, but also some theology of the Gnostic Gospels in the New Testament. And one of the things we had to learn about was the different types of love there were and how they differed. So you can say to somebody, I love you, but it means different things in different situations, doesn't it? So like the love that you have for your husband is different to the love that you have for your children, which is different again for the love that you have with your brothers and sisters. Probably you don't argue with anybody else as much as you do with those. It's a whole different kind of love, isn't it? And then it's different again for the love of your parents, for the love of your friends, for the love of your colleagues, and the love of the world at large. You know, they're all different types of love, but at every single level, rose will help. And so just a very quick conversation about gynecology. As I say, well, the book that I've written is called Rose Goddess Medicine, and it's entirely a female oil. It has tremendous actions on male sexuality, and we talk about that in the other video, but it is feminine. You know, it's just romantic and pretty. You know, the fact that they're sitting behind me, they're very, very romantic, aren't they? But it's tremendous for hormones generally. So if you are suffering with PMT or PMS, rose is lovely. I would blend it with lavender and clary sage to get rid of those period pains, but also to calm the emotions that go with it. Clary sage is also very good if you're bloated, incidentally. And if you're menopausal, how it works premenopausal and postmenopausal is different, but they both make you feel better. And again, I'll talk about more deeply in the other video. But how, if you, no, I can't let it go. That's menopause, definitely rose, always rose. If you are postmenopausal or menopausal, then again we use clary sage, and this really helps with the emotions that go with feeling older, but also tremendous for things like osteoporosis. Breathing the essential oil is proven to improve levels of oxytocin. Oxytocin is what keeps our bones strong, apart from anything else. It does lots of things, but also bone strength comes from lots of different things. But if your oxytocin has dropped, which it does after menopause, your bones get weaker. Breathing essential oils for 5 minutes has been proven to improve levels of oxytocin. And what else does oxytocin do? Lots and lots of different things, but it's the bonding molecule. So, you know that afterglow after you've had tremendous sex and you just go, I don't want them to go anywhere. That's your oxytocin, right? That's it, flushing your body. And when it's what makes your contractions happen when you're having a baby. It's that lovely bonding molecule that hopefully you have when the baby's born. Just, you know, just want to hold it. Not everybody is that lucky, but if you are, then it's oxytocin. Oxytocin also, think about how you cuddle baby, and or you watch something really emotional, get really upset or feel this rush of love. What happens? Oh my goodness, where's the breast pads? Because oxytocin brings the milk into your breasts. Floods all over your best silk dress in front of a load of blokes. Thanks, oxytocin. Next time I won't breathe my essential oils before I go out to a great big conference full of men. But essential oils will do that on every possible level. Inhalation will do that. But rose in particular really heals the thorn. It stabilizes the emotions. It stabilizes your hormones. And I've gone off what I wanted to say. If you are perimenopausal, yes, we want to use the rose, but we don't use clary sage. We use chasteberry, Vitex agnus castus. So if you get nothing from this video, you got that. It took me that long to get to it. So, let's have a quick recap then. So, emotions, skin, sleep, memory, stress, sex. That's it, isn't it? So, as I say, in the other video, we'll go much more deeply. Now, I just want to say before I go that in the links, we have lots of bits and pieces. I'll tell you how to get these cards. These are the Tongue of the Trees cards. I'll show you the page on my website that tells you how to get my books. But at this point, I would like to say thanks for watching me, because I know I can ramble on. I've got too much knowledge in my head that just comes spilling out. As soon as I smell an oil, it goes, da-da-da-da-da, what you're supposed to know. And it all comes out. But I really would love it if you would write some comments below. Tell people a little bit about your experiences with rose essential oil. Have you used it? Or another thought I would like you to think about. Find an essential oil, any essential oil, any fragrance, whether that's coffee. I'm going to ask you a question. God lives in the fragrance. What does that mean to you? How do you feel about that statement? Put it in the comments. Like and subscribe. And yeah, watch the other videos. And I will see you soon.
You get your...
Hello, welcome to the Rose Meditation for Peace, Harmony and Love. I'm Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer and the creator of Aromatherapy. We take the energy of essential oils, some of the best loved essential oils there are, and plants that have been used since the dawn of time for their healing. As you can see behind me, the rose energy is at its highest in June, and so we're going to tap into that and draw on rose healing for ourselves, but also send some out to the rest of the planet too. Now, we'll be closing our eyes and inhaling our rose oil. Now, if you don't have any, don't worry. Anything that's fragranced like a rose is great. Ideally, you will use an actual rose from your garden. If you haven't got that, grab some rose talc, or even just imagine a rose. So close your eyes and come on a journey to the most beautiful, loving, sweet plant of all time.
Today we're going to take a journey into the rose way of being. Greek mythology tells how the goddess of flowers, Chloris, conjured the rose from the lifeless body of an enchanting nymph. She was aided by the Graces, who imbued it with charm and brightness and joy. Aphrodite honoured it with beauty. Dionysus, it said, intoxicated it with perfume. And Zephyr, the west wind, ensured that clouds were always blown out of the way so the rose could open her petals to the sun. The rose was crowned the queen of flowers and the motif of the goddess of love. Of course, the rose predates ancient Greece by eons, and today we're honouring the eternal feminine, in the way she may have existed before the goddess was fractured into 1,000,000 pieces, back before Aphrodite and Venus, before Isis, and even Neith and Cybele, back to the formless void, worshipped as an amorphous creative energy that ran through all of life. The dark space of the soil and the earth, the life-giving and receiving essence of femininity, the receptacle, the alchemical vessel of the womb, soft, yielding, accommodating and inviting, the eternal feminine, legs wide open, welcoming, creating, birthing and devouring. As we lower our attention away from the conscious mind, drop it down past the heart and into the energetic womb space. And here we'll allow our attention to rest on the perineum, the secret place, the centre of the woman's power, the secret to her extraordinary ways. And as your attention rests at that space between your vagina and anus, I want you to imagine the rose. Here we connect with the sexuality of the Great Mother, attuning with the earth, feeling the dampness of the dew, the rose medicine hydrating us and dripping rose-scented nectar, moistening us, softening us and making us more liquid. Feminine energy is fluid and flexible, supple and succulent. Liquid essence cools us, refreshes and restores us, comforts, nourishes, nurtures and relaxes us. And as you sit, just allow the watery nature of femininity to steep and slosh around your pelvis. Allow the waves of sensation to lap and lick and rise and fall within you. Swilling and swirling emotion inside of you. Releasing tension and engulfing your being with moist, fluid and relaxing flow. Let it pool at your pelvis, flushing the rose around your womanhood, making it fluid and relaxed. Cooling, refreshing the moisture, relaxing the muscles. And as the rosewater hydration rises up to the sacral chakra, you may feel the tingle of desire, the trickle of arousal, ripples of eroticism even as the rose stirs the goddess of sexuality and you sense her swimming in your loins. In comparison to other energy centers, Rose has relatively weak actions on the emotional and mental levels at the solar plexus. But physically, it's wonderful for the digestion. So allow the rose water to come up so it surrounds and engulfs your intestines, your stomach, and even sinking down to your rectum. As it sits in the refreshing waters of rose, imagine them lifting and floating, relaxing in the cool pool, softening stools, easing cramps, calming nervous energy that churns in your stomach. Rises to its energetic home in the heart space. Feel the softness open into your chest area. How it softens the lungs. Remain aware of your breath and how it so easily comes in and out. Breathing in the healing pink softness and letting any hardness or hurt go out with the next breath. Notice how light the air feels in your lungs, weightless, without care, simply drifting in and out of your chest. And as your awareness comes to this part of your body, perhaps you perceive how inhaling the rose not only increases neurotransmitters to make us feel calmer and more sensuous, but also estrogen and oxytocin, which increase our vitality, settle our libido into good balance, and also, of course, fill out those beautiful womanly breasts. And as the hormones begin to lift and pour and regenerate in the womanly vessel, I am reminded of the priestesses of ancient Hinduism, whose job it was to invite people to witness the goddess in action through their dances, knowing that the energy of Rose is feminine and feminine energy is passive. Simply allow these messages to flow through you, extending through your body, and perhaps maybe registering on parts of your physicality, including your face. Pleasure giving, delectableness, delightful, inviting, attractive. Come hither looks, winning ways, winsomeness, charm, enchantment, loveliness, sweetness, sensuous, genial, exquisite, delicate, intoxicating, tasty, sure, sugary, tantalizing, seducing, dulcet, appealing, harmonious. Rose irresistibly changes the substrate of your being, softening your heart, promoting quietude, hush, restfulness and silence, peaceful thoughts, harmony with others, but also, and perhaps more importantly, with oneself, union, rapport, solidarity, reciprocity, halcyon days of happiness and calm, tranquil thoughts, serene moments, roses dove-like, harmless, conciliatory and passive. Sitting with Rose makes you rested and unhurried. Watering nature of Rose, its cooling essence, its passivity and fluidity reminds me of a stream with rocks and stones, and yet the water passes through. It's adaptable, mutable, changeable, and it flows as it needs to flow. Not held, not hard, not active, merely expressive in the moment, transient, fleeting, butterfly moments where emotions ebb and flow and are gone. flow. We've reached the depths of the rose water, and now fumes of perfume are evaporating up to our throat chakra. And as they swirl and enter our energetic space, breathe in the fumes and allow them to dissipate into your lungs, sweetening them, softening them, filling them with kindness, of grace and gratitude. Words that come from the throat chakra with rose are soft, kind, conciliatory. They are harmonious, honey-like, poetic, and beautiful. Rose is compassion, kindness, and open-heartedness. Rose communication is open-hearted, but open to another's point of view. Compassionate and over agenda. It is harmonious, enchanting, and kind. Feel the kindness, the softness, the passive beauty of rose entering your headspace. Can you feel how the rose extends out from inside of your head and moves outwards through your etheric bodies? Boundless, without restriction, formless, expansive, expressive, liberated and free. And as you bring up those beautiful, kind, attentive feelings, allow them to come up out of your head and overflow into your space, filling and reaching out of the room you sit in, out through the windows and doors, reaching further and further until it reaches the edges of the cosmos. Rose energy pouring out of your heart space, out of your head, out of your mouth with words, out of your ears, cleaning them to make them open to other people's thoughts, pouring out love, emanating concord and affection, friendship, protectiveness, fellowship, and high regard, expanding your etheric bodies into boundless space, extending your vibration of love unfathomable distances into infinity, touching innumerable stars and healing the untold pain of millions. And as the energy comes to a crescendo, allow that outpouring from your heart. Drawing your attention back in now, bring your energy right back into your body, ensuring all tendrils are pulled right back in. See yourself surrounded by a beautiful bubble of silver light. And silver rain cascading over your aura, cleaning any negativity, bringing in and holding that purity that you have worked so hard to gain. See yourself coming right back into your body, down onto your haunches, wiggle into your seat, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Just before we go, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this aromatherapy journey, and to thank you for being an earth steward.